What we do have is Lavell Malloy, CEO and co-founder of Bragg House, stock symbol TBH, and boy, the #1 home for casual college gamer. But it's much more than that because he's amassed, he has, I should say, directed a whole affinity group of people in a certain age group towards a confluence of culture and capital is what he calls it. So my good friend Lavell. Lavell, I have to say, you know, we talked about last week sort of, you know, the problem and the secret sauce of what you're doing here. And for the folks who didn't get a chance to talk to you, you know, your vision is to bridge culture and capital, where you've built this company based upon, I mean, it's almost like Steve Forbes, who says, if you want to be successful, find a need and fill it. Well, you guys amassed it. Can I tell you, as a band, the reason that at age 65, I got to sign a second record deal and I'm going on, what, 25, 26 tour dates next year at this age, is because we gamed the system. And how we gamed the system was we had good music, but even more than that, you can't make it in the music business unless you can find someone to buy a ticket to see you. It's called a hard ticket sale. So what did we do, Mary? We went to charities like Challenge Athletes Foundation. We filled a room with people that would buy a ticket automatically. So we already had an automatic audience. You had an automatic audience in this gamer situation, and you literally reverse engineered a business into that. It was brilliant. It really was, because it wasn't about finding the people that come be your customers. You knew what the customers were. You just had to find a need that they need and fill that need, right? That's really how the game was played in the beginning, correct?
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. I think what you see so much is you see people trying to sell to a specific fan base and they're saying, great, 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 great. And you're right. It's like we said, hey, there's already a built-in community here. And it's on the intersection of college sports, gaming, and social interaction. So we just filled that void. And I think the other really important thing we did, that we showed that community loyalty is really a tangible asset. And I think that's so important, because when more people learn that and learn how we took that as an asset, now it has value. And that's why we're able to kind of use that and market that.
You know, the thing that you've mentioned last week or the time before was when your audience started saying to you, teach us everything, you knew you had them, right? Wasn't that the tipping point where you came and you knew the audience, you offered them something, and again, the find a need and fill it. You offered them something that they didn't have, but you knew they needed, and all of a sudden they were like sponges, right? In terms of wanting what you had.
It was a very humbling moment too, because you have all these executives of Coca-Cola and McDonald's, and we're like, yeah, me and my co-founder Daniel, we're like, we're ready to go, we're ready to pitch, and they're like, no, 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 teach us, and we'll pitch to the entire corporate board of McDonald's, and we'll tell them that this works.
Well, and that was the corner of digital engagement to digital ownership. Right? I mean, isn't that what you talk about? Isn't that the why that which is next on the spectrum here? It's moving from the digital engagement, which we're all trying to get, to digital ownership. I mean, and I think that's something that I've never even heard of before. Talk about that piece of it for us.
Yeah, so really it's the next evolution, and I'm really glad you asked that question, because I get asked about it a lot. And really, we use this new commodity, this fan loyalty, community loyalty, and we've given them everything, their experiences, because they're valuable in our media tech platform. Now the next evolution, and why we really, really value this merger, is they're gonna have ownership in teams, ownership in things that they do. And the reason why that's important is because this ownership is something that they wouldn't have before. It's not, it's only a select few have this type of ownership. So creating that new financial scale, and I think big, but we've done it already with what the hardest audience there is creating this new way to adopt finance. And now they're going to have that ownership to be able to do that, and they want to. And that's it's meeting them where they are, and that's how you bring it to capital.
Well, mentioning finance, that just reminds me, we've talked a little bit about your collaboration with House of Doge. Can you just talk about how that is influencing the payment infrastructure and how that's changing the face of what you're doing?
That's an excellent question. So, a lot of people, I think people, they see, one of the largest cryptos, they see this $30 billion market cap, but I'm a very fundamental person. It's from my compliance background, from my securities law background. What they're building is payment processing, so they can have utility and create, and have more use inside currency, tokenization, branding. It's an entire ecosystem. So if you can build a payment processing center that the equivalence of a Visa, of a MasterCard, if you can put a tokenization, which, BlackRock, Blackstone have said that, all embracing, even the NASDAQ, if you put those things in it, but, the only difference is now you're back, the utility that you're using is a $30 billion currency, those are fundamentals. You're not saying, hey, we're just putting all this on your balance sheet. We're saying, no. This is what Gen Z, what other people already use, these digital things, the Venmos, everything. Let's adopt that into finance. That was my vision as soon as I started hearing about that. And I'm like, let's build out these vertical rails. And that's what it is, building out these huge rails with comparables that are, trillion-dollar markets. Build that in. And the only reason why it's even in the realm of the word come crypto is because that is a utility that's there. But if you have payment of any currency throughout all colleges, throughout everywhere, that's a huge huge thing.
This is what I'm talking about, how you reverse engineered an audience that already existed. What it makes me think, though, is because you have a proprietary advantage, Lavell, is that you could do this with other affinity groups. Okay,
Correct.
Let's just say military, for example, since we're on American Forces Network. There's a common need in military for consumer finance. There's a common need in military for debt restructure. There's a common need in different areas of the country, not just college students, but let's talk about post-grads who can't find a job. I mean, if you can identify the affinity groups, can't you take your model and overlay that into, with not necessarily in gaming, but in other industries, correct? Isn't that that's the secret sauce here, right?
Very, very easily. Very easily. And I think that's when I call it a playbook, that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking something which, was a meme, and we're saying, hey, let's make it, what's the void? What's the reason why? Adoption. Make this adopted. And how do you adopt it? You put in all of these rails to make sure it's used everywhere, globally, sports teams. These are the ways that you put in. So it's exactly right. It's taking exactly that. And, I honestly, someone would ask me this question. They said, can you think of an industry that couldn't benefit from that? And I can't think of an industry that couldn't benefit from that playbook.
I always keep you longer than I tell you I am. Just steal your time from you without permission, and because it's national TV. But I have to ask you before you let you out of here, why is there no competition for this? I mean, I know that you're a genius. I'm not just saying that because I like you, but I mean, you are. I think I can illustrate, even in our conversations that we have here on air, that how just different this is. I'm so surprised that someone hasn't cracked this code. There is a competitive moat, as you describe it, using your own parlance, to where it just doesn't exist. Talk about that just for a minute before we let you out of here today.
I think the best way to say that, and you'll get this, is that, I started Bragg House because in, 2014, I believe, that's when they EA Sports stopped producing the game, EA College Sports. And I proceeded to watch, I was building other businesses. I watched a billion-dollar industry, just a digital billion-dollar industry, not be replicated, not be created. And I kept saying, someone's way smarter than me. They'll create this, they'll create this, they'll create this. And no one did. and so I just said, you know what, in 2019, I was like, I'm going to build this because I don't understand. And again, even when EA Sports, which our partner, love them to death, even when they came back out, they only came out with a game. They didn't put the other things that I felt were important. So the short answer is I just think that, people are kind of stuck to their ROIs. People are still under the impression that you can't, make anything new. It's just built off other stuff. And I never had that mentality. I think if you have a problem and you can find a solution, that's valuable.
I love it. Lavell Malloy is his name. He's the CEO, co-founder of Bragg House. TBH is their stock symbol. Every time we have this kid on.
Love him.
And I hate to call him a kid in terms of this pat him on the head kid, but he is a punctrepreneur like Howie. He's making us all look bad, making us all look old, but no, seriously. Really, really interesting stuff.
Yeah.